obviously the first thing on the list is the Giants and Washington, but like it says -3 for Washington, and we all know we just didn't know when you watched the game, you had no idea what was going on, right? Because you don't know if the Washington team was good or if they're just both bad teams or if the Giants are actually better than they look, because the Giants looked terrible the week before and Washington looked okay the week before, but Washington played a really good team in the Chargers and the Giants didn't. And so when you watch this game, it's like, okay, is Washington good? Are they not good? Their defense struggled really bad. They gave up 29 points to the Giants, who aren't a good team. And so I go back and I look at it and I look at like where I rank them as a team. I don't know if they're going to win the division anymore, just based on what we saw. I mean, yeah, they won the game and it was dirty and it wasn't a good game, but where are they going to go from there going forward? I mean, they have a pretty rough schedule after this. Hold on one second. They play at Buffalo next week. They're probably not going to win that game unless Buffalo just all of a sudden starts looking really bad. But Washington kind of starts coming down a little bit for me on my list because their defense didn't look good. Chase Young's not getting to the quarterback. Sweat got to the quarterback a few times, but their secondary gave up a bunch of passes. And now they have Heineke, who looked better than Fitzgerald. Now I get that, but they just didn't look like a solid team. I mean, the Cowboys obviously looked much better. So the fact that they only got 3, they did kind of cover, or they didn't cover. But it's worrying to me on the Washington football team whether they're actually going to win the division or not, right? So the next team, next game, Raiders-Steelers. People have the Pittsburgh at -5.5. I don't know if that's right. I think Pittsburgh might win the game. When I say might, I mean it's going to come down to something. The Pittsburgh has a terrible offense. They did not play well against Buffalo, right? The only reason they won that game is because they blocked a punt and scored off of it, right? The Raiders looked really good against the Ravens, who over the last couple of years, the Ravens have just beat up on the Steelers, and they beat them every single game. And they did that without running backs, and the Raiders looked okay. I'm not saying that their defense is great and they're going to do amazing. Their offensive line is so good. If the Steelers can contain Darren Waller, which they can, they have one of the best defensive fronts in football, then the Raiders may not put up the points that they are, but they have a good offense, but they need more out of Henry Ruggs and all these other receivers instead of the Waller show, Josh Jacobs, and then hopefully their defense doesn't give up 400 yards to Big Ben in that passing attack. Do I think they're going to score points? Both teams are going to score points. It just depends on how much someone else steps up for the Raiders. I do think the Steelers win the game, but I don't think they win by more than five points. Honestly, I think it's closer to 3. I'm saying 20-17, something like that. They're going to keep it low. It's going to be a low-scoring game because the Pittsburgh have a great defense. But the Raiders I think people are just discounting them. They're good. They're a good team. I think they're just really discounting how good the Raiders are going to be. So it is what it is. The next one, Bengals-Bears. I don't like that the Bears are favored, even though they're at home. Andy Dalton did not look good. There's too much turmoil going on with the Andy Dalton, Justin Fields thing. And as soon as the Bears get down 7-0, which they will, especially if they kick off and Bengals get first ball, they go down 7-0, you're going to be hearing chants for Justin Fields. They're just going to be chanting, Fields, put him in, put him in, put him in. And it might not be a bad idea to play him today because it will help him out because obviously the Bengals aren't a good team. But they did beat Minnesota, who we thought was a 500 team. And they have a decent offense. And Jamar Chase finally actually caught a ball instead of dropping everything like he did in the preseason. Joe Mixon's still a really good running back. They still have T. Higgins. Joe Burrow looked comfortable. But we'll see. I mean, I just don't know. But I think the Bengals come out and just outright win this game. I think they outright win the game by a touchdown. Not, because the Bears defense is not the Bears defense. I mean, I understand that the Rams last week, they put up a ton of points on the Bears, but I know Matt Stafford and that offense looks amazing, but I don't think they're so far ahead of everyone else that Bears defense was like, oh, it's okay. It's just the Rams, The Rams do this to everybody. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that a lot of people are going to do this to the Bears. And there's just too much going on in the locker room about who's going to play. Some players want this person to play. Some players want that person to play. I just think that the Bengals come out and they steal another one. The Bengals are going to be 2-0. Honestly, in my opinion, they're going to be 2-0. and they're still going to be one of the worst teams in that division, which is bad. So next game, Browns, Texans. 13.5 is a lot of points. I don't think Cleveland wins by 2 touchdowns. I think they win by 10 points or more, but I think they're going to come out. They're going to be pissed because they felt like they lost one to the Chiefs at Arrowhead, which I don't know how anybody could feel that way. Texans looked really good against Jacksonville, the worst team in the league. I don't think the Texans are going to be that well. The Browns control the clock too much. They got Chubb and Hunt and all these, great outlet receivers and the best O-line in football, and they have great defense. I think the defense carries them and keeps the Texans under 14 points. I think the Texans only score 10 points because the defense is really good. But I think that the Browns get to a point where they just run the ball and they score like once a quarter because they have 13-minute drives, and they just eat the clock up with their running game. And I think they want to come out and make a point today that, yeah, we lost to the Chiefs. It was close, but this is what we're going to do to almost every team we play this year. We're not playing the Chiefs every single week. 13.5 is a lot. That's a lot of points. I'm not taking the points on that. I think it's like 10 to 20, 21, 10 to 21, something like that, just because I think the Browns are just going to eat clocks. Stefanski's going to prove a point. You never know, but he may just feed Baker Mayfield and try to make him feel good because he's playing a bad team. So it could be that way too. Colts, Rams. Rams being minus 3.5. I think that's low. I think the Rams win by a full touchdown. I know it's at Indy, and Indy's got a decent team, but they got blown out by Seattle, and I think the Rams are better than Seattle. They got beat by 14 at home against Seattle last week. I think the Rams come in and do the same thing, if not worse. Carson Wentz doesn't look good. Their running game looks kind of and now they're facing Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. They really don't have any receivers. Michael Pittman looked like a ghost. He didn't look like he was doing anything last week. Their defense did not look good against the deep ball. Stafford can show like he did against the Bears, that he can throw the ball deep. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are going to feast on this defense as long as they run the football. That's the thing, is there's a lot of Matt Stafford, and how good he is and how well he fits into the system, but they need to run the football so they can do play action long passes. I know that's the part of the offense and everything, but it looked like at the beginning of the game against the Bears, they did that great. And then in the second half, they came out and they ran the football, and they had 2 huge play action plays that they need to do against the Colts. I'm not saying that they're in danger of losing to the Colts. The Colts are a good team, but the Rams just seem like the best team in the NFC. It's not even close. Bills, Dolphins, minus 3.5 is a little suspect. I do think the Bills win the game at the Dolphins. If the Dolphins win this game, it's a little, I don't know, it's concerning for the Bills, because the Bills if they go 0-2, how many times? 80% of the time, people that go 0-2 don't make the playoffs, and they're supposed to win this division. So, the Dolphins are good defense, right? The Bills looked like a leaky bucket on defense last week against Pittsburgh. They didn't do that well. They controlled the clock really well. Miami just doesn't throw the ball deep. So it's one of those things where the Bills can stack the box, keep everything in front of them, and Tua's not going to be able to do much. I honestly believe that 3.5 is a little. It's actually I agree with this one, 3.5. Right, this is a pick'em game for me, because I know the Bills are going to win. I just don't know what the points, whether the Bills are going to win by 3 or 7 or 1. It just depends on what goes on, like fumbles and all that stuff like that. You just never know. So, Patriots, Jets, minus 6 is really low. I think the Patriots win by 20-something points. The Jets are obviously the worst team in the AFC. Actually, that might not be true. The Jacksonville might be even worse. But the Jets looked absolutely terrible last week, and New England's a better team. So I know they're going into the Jets, and it's Mac Jones. I wouldn't be surprised if Mac Jones puts up 30-something points this week. The Jets are just terrible, and I don't want to talk about them anymore. So, Niners, Eagles, this one's a little closer. Minus 3 seems ridiculous. I think the Eagles win this at home against the Niners. I know the Niners looked really good against the Lions last week, but I think the Eagles come out and just push them around. Their defense looks great. Their offensive line look amazing. The 49ers, statistically and historically, struggle against mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts actually looked like he was really, really good last week. A lot better than everybody thought he was going to look. And so I don't like the Niners having minus 3. I'm taking the Eagles easy, and I think they win outright. But I think it's going to be a close game because it's 2 pretty good defenses. But I still think the Eagles win outright there at home. I'm going to give them the home field advantage. New Orleans and the Panthers. We don't know who New Orleans is, so I don't know if 3.5 is good for them. I mean, they played the Packers last week. Packers are a decent team. They're supposed to be a good team. They're supposed to win 13 games this year, but they played like the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. So Aaron Rodgers looked terrible. We don't know if their turmoil is going to continue and they're going to keep, with everything going on there. Panthers looked pretty good last week, even though they played the Jets. But I think it's a little bit of a disrespect to give the Panthers -3.5 or +3.5 at home against a unproven team. Every team in the league was going to look good against the Packers last week. Now, we don't know. The Saints defense could have been so good that the Packers looked terrible, but Packers defense looked bad. I mean, Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdowns on 140-something yards. So Carolina has a great overall offense. They're just solid. They're not going to be one of those teams that blows you out or anything like that. But I think the -3.5 to New Orleans is a little bit of disrespect to the Panthers. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers come out and beat that and win that game. Denver, Jacksonville, -6.5 is a disrespect to the Broncos. I know a lot of people are like, well, it's at home for Jacksonville. I don't care. Denver's going to win by 20 points or more. Jacksonville looks so bad they look like they could lose to Alabama. I know they wouldn't, because obviously no NFL team's going to lose to an NCAA team, but it'd be close. Urban Meyers is out over his skis. He doesn't know what's going on. He has no clue how to run defense in the NFL. You can't just make adjustments and keep doing the same stuff at halftime that you did the week before. People are not doing the same things. This is a whole different league for him. I like Urban Meyer. Obviously, I'm an Ohio State guy, but he is just not prepared for this, and you could just see it in his face. The offense isn't ready. The defense wasn't ready. Denver Broncos are a much better team than the Texans, and the Texans put it on the Jags. I think Denver comes out, they win 30-something to 10. And just 6. I take Denver easily. I take Denver with -14, to be honest with you. Vikings, Arizona Cardinals. I like the Cardinals have -3.5 at home. I think that this is going to be closer. I know the Cardinals, dominated last week, and the Vikings lost to the Bengals, but I don't think Kyler Murray is going to do the same thing every single week that he did in week 1, right? I know the Vikings have a good defense. I know the Cardinals have a great defensive line and can get to the quarterback and stuff like that. I still think it's closer than what it is. The Cardinals still don't have a running game. We don't have them more than maybe a 10-win team this year. And we have the Vikings being a 5,500 team. So it's going to be closer than what it is. I take Minnesota in this. I think the Arizona wins by a field goal. I think that hook, that 0.5 on that is what's killing me on that bet. So Atlanta, Tampa Bay, -12.5. I think that's a little high for that. I think I would take the Falcons in this. I think the Falcons came out. They had a really bad game. They dropped a lot of passes, fumbled. Their defense looked just not there. I think they clean it up a little bit. I don't think Tom Brady runs the score up like people want him to. I think he checks down. They run the ball a lot with Ronald Jones this week because the Falcons have no running defense at all. And I think they keep it in just because of that, it stays close. Now, obviously, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this game. But I think the Falcons keep it close because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just running the football because they know that they have a much better passing defense than they do a rushing defense. And I expect to see a lot out of Ronald Jones today. I know people like Leonard Fournette, but I like Ronald Jones in that he seems to be the one they like to give the ball to. Cowboys, Chargers, this is my game of the week. I think this will be the best game to watch. I know there's a couple games on here that people will want to watch, but I think this one's the game to watch because the Chargers are a top 5 team in the NFL, and the Cowboys are trying to be a top 5 team in the NFL. They just don't have the defense. With Lawrence going out, that's going to hurt them a lot. The -3 for the Chargers is going to be huge at home. I think the Chargers, with their first time playing in the stadium with fans, is going to be big for them. Justin Herbert may feel a little too much nerve, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a rough first quarter. But after that, it's going to be great. This is going to be a good game. -3. I wouldn't bet this game. This is one of those games where you never know. It could go either way. I'm not betting this game, but I like the Chargers to win because I think they're just a better team overall because they have a better defense. Titans, Seahawks. Seahawks -6.5. I take that bet. Titans looked terrible last week. Cardinals put it on them. Seahawks are a better team than the Cardinals. I know Kyler Murray's amazing. Russell Wilson's basically the same thing, just maybe not as fast. Those a better deep ball. I think Seattle looks amazing. Their defensive line look really, really good. If they can control Derrick Henry, this could be a blowout. But you never know. I mean, the Titans could clean some things up on the defensive side of the football, maybe not give up so many big plays. but I just think the Seahawks overall are a better roster. They're going to make the Titans look bad. I think they win by 10 points. Chiefs Ravens. This is what people think is going to be the best game of the week. I actually don't think it's going to be that bad. If the Raiders can beat the Ravens, the Chiefs are going to destroy them. I'm not saying destroy them in the way where they beat them by like 20, 30 points. I just think the Chiefs win by 10, maybe 14, depending on how well and if one of the Ravens people fumble or if they can't get some of their offense going at the beginning of the game. It's going to come down. I know it's at home for the Ravens. I know it's at night. And everybody's talking about how Lamar's never beat the Chiefs and it's a big, boogeyman for him. I don't think that matters when it comes to this. I think it's more of the Chiefs just have a better overall roster. They're healthy. They have people that are playing. The Ravens, they play a lot of cover zero. Can't do that against the Chiefs. You're going to have to double Tyreek Hill. You're going to have to double Travis Kelce. You can't bring all-out blitzes. I know they're going to try to do that. Mahomes is just going to run backwards and throw it up as far as he can, and the only person that's going to be there is Tyreek Hill. I think this is a close game. When you look at it, it's going to look like a close game, but I think the Chiefs win by 7 to 10 points. Packers, Lions, minus 12.5. Honestly, I take the Lions in this, plus 12.5. That's a lot of points. I know everybody thinks that the Packers are just going to throw it on the Lions. I know the 49ers threw it on the Lions last week, but the Lions came back. I just don't trust Aaron Rodgers right now to be in the same headspace he needs to be to put up the points he needs to do this. Their defense looked terrible. I know he always says relax and come back and stuff like that, but I don't know. I just don't trust him. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, maybe he does in this game, but 12.5 is a lot. I think they'll win by 10, 7. That could be a bad bet. This is not a game. If I was picking 5 games out of the whole roster, I'm not betting on this game, that's for sure. Just because you don't know who's going to show up, MVP Aaron or spike it into the ground with the 0, rating Aaron. Just don't know. I mean, those are the matchups. And so, but I do want to get into the DraftKings lineup because it's a good week. And we specifically went into this and I built a team around, it's going to sound really weird. I built my team around Teddy Bridgewater and the Cleveland running backs. I think Bridgewater is super cheap when it comes to that. He's $4,000 less than every other quarterback. I think he's going to have a massive game against, just a shaky Jacksonville team. And I think the running backs for Cleveland are going to come out and prove a point. They had a really good game against the Chiefs last week. Houston not as good. I think they come out, they control the clock, and they go crazy. I took both Hunt and Chubb, and then I just don't see how they don't go off this week. Receivers wise, I took Cooper Kupp. I think obviously Matt Stafford likes throwing to him. He gets open. He runs the best routes on the team. He's one of their better receivers. I think he's just going to keep going to Kupp like he did all last week. Mike Williams for the Chargers. I think he's going to play a huge role against Dallas this week. If the Chargers want to beat Dallas, Mike Williams has to have another week like he did last week, catching 8 passes, 100 yards, touchdowns, stuff like that. He has the ability to catch a bunch of touchdowns because he's big and he's a good red zone threat. Third receiver, I'm taking Chase Claypool. I know it sounds a little weird because I don't think that Pittsburgh has a great offense, but Claypool is 6'4", 220, runs a 4.3. He's a prototypical wide receiver. Big Ben targets him a lot. The Raiders don't really have that good of a defense, and he's cheap. I mean, he's not a high price when it comes to that. So you can round out your wide receiver core with a pretty good receiver that's going to be able to put up points against a defense that doesn't really do well. Now they kind of showed that they could get to the quarterback, but obviously Pittsburgh's got a better passing attack than the Ravens overall. So we'll see. I mean, the Ravens didn't do very well against the Raiders defense passing the football. I think the Pittsburgh does a little bit better. I just think it's a low-scoring game because the Pittsburgh, that's just the way they do it. They grind out wins. Tight ends, I went with a low tight end, Gronk. I mean, he had a great game. Obviously, him and Brady have really good synergy. They're playing the Falcons. Falcons are not a good team. I wouldn't be surprised if the running backs and receivers have a big first quarter and second quarter and stuff like that until they get a big lead. But I think Gronk could just be the beneficiary of some checkdowns and maybe have a couple big. He's an unbelievable red zone target. He had a great week last week. He should do the same thing. Flex pick. This is kind of my up in the air. Ronald Jones the second. Obviously, I think that Tampa Bay is going to run the football a lot, especially in the second half. They tend to be more towards Ronald Jones. They've even said that he's going to be the featured back this game. Just feel like he's going to do a good job. Falcons have a terrible run defense. He's unbelievably cheap when it comes to this. and you might get some value out of him. I know he didn't have a good game last week, but Dallas, they had to keep throwing the ball to keep up with Dallas. And then defense, I'm going with the Broncos just because the Jaguars are terrible, and the Broncos are playing the worst team in the league, especially offensive wise. Now I know Trevor Lawrence is going to get some points, right? But I feel like the Broncos are going to be able to take away Von Miller, Bradley Chubb if they both play. They have an overall better overall roster defensively than the Houston Texans, and Texans kind of exposed the Jacksonville last week. I think the Broncos just make it even worse this week because I don't think Urban Meyer knows just yet how to make all of the adjustments. So to be honest with you, I think I got a pretty good lineup. I don't know if it's going to work out for me because obviously it's a DraftKings and we just don't know. So, but yeah, those are the week 2 matchups. I feel like it's going to be a good week for just overall. I think it could be really good. So it just depends on who comes out and plays. I mean, it's a lot this week. I don't trust the Packers. I think the New Orleans Saints or the Carolina Panthers versus New Orleans Saints being disrespected. Chargers Dallas is the only game I really want to watch this week. Obviously, I want to watch the Chiefs and Ravens because it's a Monday night or Sunday night game. That's a good game. I probably won't watch a Monday night game just because nobody wants to watch Aaron Rodgers kind of do all that stuff. He's basically playing a bad team. So, but yeah, I mean, week 2 looks pretty good. I think we should win some money though this week for real, especially with the bets. So, appreciate it, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. If you like the content, do everything that I just said. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know, and we'll see you on the next one.